Welcome back to Timeless Messages from the I Ching. This is Stephen. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. So today's question is, what are the most important or beneficial messages for the viewers at the time they find this video? Most important messages for the viewers at the time they find this video. And the two hexagrams that came up are number 20, contemplation, view, and number 11, tie, peace. If you'd like to relax your eyes and take some deep breaths and have some stress reduction, I will begin the interpretation. Contemplation, view, number 20. So, this hexagram means both contemplating and being seen in the sense of being an example. These ideas are suggested by the fact that the hexagram can be understood as picturing a type of tower that is characteristic in ancient China. A tower of this kind commanded a wide view of the country, and at the same time, when it was situated on a mountaintop, it became a landmark that could be seen for miles around. Thus, the ability to see for a far distance, and also that tower was able to be seen for a long distance as well. So you are like this tower. You are able to command a wide view in your life, and you're also able to be seen from a distance. Thus, the hexagram shows a ruler who contemplates the laws of heaven above and the ways of the people below, and who by means of good government or good examples sets a lofty example to the masses. This hexagram is linked with the 8th month, September, October. The light-giving power retreats, and the dark power is again on the increase. However, this aspect is not important in the interpretation of the hexagram as a whole. The judgment, contemplation, the ablution has been made, but not yet the offering. Full of trust, they look up to him. The sacrificial rite in China began with an ablution, which is a ritual washing of a deity's, like a statue, and a libation, which is a drink, an offering by which the deity was invoked or asked to come forth, after which the sacrifice was offered. The moment of time between these two ceremonies is the most sacred of all, the moment of deepest inner concentration. If your faith is sincere and expressive of real commitment, this contemplation has a transforming and awe-inspiring effect on those who witness it. Also, in nature, a holy seriousness is to be seen in the fact that natural occurrences are uniformly subject to natural laws. Contemplation of the divine meaning underlying the workings of the universe gives to the person who is called upon to influence others the ability to produce similar effects. So if you understand the underworking, the laws of the universe, then you are able to produce similar effects in others. Interesting concept. And this requires a power of inner concentration, which spiritual contemplation develops in people strong in faith. So this inner concentration enables these people to grasp the mysterious and divine laws of life. And by means of deep and profound inner concentration, these people give expression to these natural laws in their own persons. Thus, a hidden spiritual power emanates from these people that influences and dominates others without the others being aware of how it happens, and likely without this person who has this ability being aware of how it happens as well. The image, the wind blows over the earth, the image of contemplation. Thus, the kings of old visited the regions of the world and contemplated the people and gave them instruction. When the wind blows over the earth, it goes far and wide, and the grass must bend to its power. These two occurrences find confirmation in this hexagram. The two images are used to symbolize a practice of the kings of old. They made regular journeys, and in doing so, they could understand and survey their realm, and make certain that none of the existing practices of the people escaped their notice. And in the second place, the ruler could exert influence by which such customs as were not suitable could be changed. all of this points to the power possessed by a superior personality. On the one hand, such a person will have a view of the real sentiments of the great mass of humanity, and therefore cannot be deceived. And on the other hand, this person will impress the people so profoundly by their mere existence and by the impact of their personality that they will be swayed, the people that is, by this personality as the grass is swayed by the wind. So this talks about the idea of your personality, developing your personality, your actual character, your power, your inner contemplation, and by doing so, your influence has a very profound impact upon others and sways them just as the wind sways the grass. So we have many lines that are changing in this particular hexagram, 5 changing lines. The line 6 at the beginning means boy-like contemplation. For an inferior man, no blame. For a superior person, humiliation. This means contemplation from a distance without comprehension. A person of influence is at hand, but this person's influence is not understood by the common people. And this matters little in the case of the masses, for they benefit by the actions of the ruling sage, whether they understand those actions or not. But for a superior person, it is a disgrace. The superior person must not content themselves with a shallow or thoughtless view of the prevailing forces. Rather, the superior person must contemplate the prevailing forces as a connected whole and try to understand them. So this talks about the importance of going a little bit deeper than the surface, not having a shallow view of prevailing forces or a thoughtless view of prevailing forces, but understanding that the prevailing forces are connected. Everything is connected in a unified whole, and trying to understand things from this perspective rather than from a very shallow or simplified perspective. 6 in the second place means contemplation through the crack of the door, furthering for the perseverance of a woman. Through the crack of the door, one has a limited outlook. So this pictures your particular perspective or outlook as being limited, like looking through the crack of a door. A person looks outward from within. Contemplation is subjectively limited in this circumstance. A person tends to relate everything to themselves and cannot put themselves in another person's place and understand their motives. This is appropriate for a good housewife, but it is not necessary for her to be interacting with the affairs of the world. But for a person who must take active part in public life, such a narrow, egotistical way of contemplating things is of course harmful. So this talks about the importance of widening the crack in your door to expand to the a larger view than this, so that you can take other people's positions, motivations, put yourself in another person's place, and not always come from your own self-centered perspective. Now, it uses the example of a good housewife, but this, of course, this book was written 3,000 years ago. There's many women who are in public affairs, of course, but that's not the point. The point is that the person who is having this limited effect must have a wider perspective, not a narrow perspective, not a self-centered or egotistical perspective in their dealings with others. They have to contemplate things. The encouragement is to contemplate things from a larger, less self-centered position, so that you're able to understand, put yourself in other people's places, understand their own desires and motivations, and therefore you develop wisdom and compassion. 6 in the third place, the third changing line, means contemplation of my life decides the choice between advance and retreat. This is the place of transition, for we no longer look outward to receive pictures that are more or less limited and confused, but instead we direct our contemplations upon ourselves in order to find a guideline for our decisions. This self-contemplation means the overcoming of naive egotism in the person who sees everything solely from their own standpoint. This person begins to reflect and in this way requires or acquires objectivity. However, self-knowledge does not mean a preoccupation with your own thoughts. Rather, self-knowledge means concern about the effects that you create. For it is only the effects that our lives produce that give us the right to judge whether what we have done means progress or regression. For this particular line is talking about the importance of looking from within. The contemplation is no longer you're receiving pictures that are limited and confused by looking outward, but rather you're directing your contemplation upon yourself. And in directing your contemplation on yourself, this is not a self-centered focus, an egotistical kind of thing. Rather, it is asking yourself, what type of effects am I creating in life for myself and for others that I'm interacting with? And am I producing effects that are meaning progress or regression? And if they're regression, how can I make improvements? And if I'm having effects that are making progress, then how can I continue in making these types of effects? So 6 in the, no, not 6 in the 4th place, 9 in the 5th place is the next changing line. Contemplation of my life, the superior person is without blame. A person in an authoritative position to whom others look up to must always be ready for self-examination. The right sort of self-examination, however, consists not in idle brooding over oneself, but rather in examining the effects one produces. So here we have the reiteration of you're examining the effects that you are producing in your life. For only when these effects that you produce are good, and when your influence on others is good, will the contemplation of your own life bring the satisfaction of knowing yourself to be free of mistakes. So essentially, the same thing is reiterated a little more extensively here, that you are looking at the effects that you're producing. Are they good? Is your influence good upon others as well? And as you contemplate the effects that your life is producing, does it bring satisfaction to know that you are free of mistakes? Powerful things to consider. The final line that changes, 9 at the top, contemplation of his life. The superior man is without blame. I read this differently. Contemplation of a person's life. The superior person is without blame. While the while the preceding line represents a person who contemplates themselves here in the highest place, everything that is personal related to the ego is excluded. This pictures a sage who stands outside the affairs of the world, and the sage is liberated from their ego. The sage contemplates the laws of life, and so the sage realizes that knowing how to become free of blame is the highest good. So this extends it even further as you're looking toward reflection upon yourself and the effects that you are producing in your own life and also upon others. You are then going further and saying, am I free of blame? Am I free of mistakes in the previous line? And am I free of blame in terms of my choices, in terms of the effects that I am producing? So you're tuning inwardly to your inner sage, your inner light, and being liberated from the ego, which is always coming from a standpoint of me, me, me. You're contemplating the effects that your life is producing in life, for yourself, and for others. And you're asking yourself, am I free of blame? Have I done good? And if you're free of blame, then by all means continue on as you are. So moving to the second hexagram, we have Tai, peace. The sequence, good conduct, then contentment, thus calm prevails. Hence there follows a hexagram of peace. Peace means union and interrelation. The Chinese word Tai is not easy to translate. It means contentment, rest, peace, in the positive sense of unobstructed, complete union, bringing about a time of flowering and greatness. The movement of the lower trigram Qian, or heaven, tends upward. That of the upper trigram Kun tends downward. That's earth. And thus they approach one another. This hexagram is correlated with the first month, February, March. So Tai or peace relates to the divine feminine and the divine masculine. The divine masculine rises up to meet the feminine, and the divine feminine moves downward to unite with the divine masculine. Therefore, heaven is pictured on earth. The movement of the energy of the hexagram as a whole produces a victorious ascent of the principles of the good person and a withdrawal and defeat of the principles of the inferior or negative persons. None of this is arbitrary. It is born of the time. It is the season of spring, both in the year and in history, that is represented by this hexagram. The receptive which moves downward stands above. The creative which moves upward is below. Hence their influences meet and are in harmony, so that all living beings bloom and prosper. This is talking about the time of February, March, at which time the forces of nature prepare for new spring. The judgment, peace, the small departs, the great approaches, good fortune and success. This hexagram pictures a time in nature when heaven seems to be on earth. Heaven has placed itself beneath the earth, and so their powers unite in deep harmony. Then peace and blessings descend upon all living things. In the world of humanity is a time of social harmony. Those in high places show favor to the lowly, and the lowly and inferior in their turn are well disposed toward the highly placed. There is an end to all feuds. That sounds good, an end to all feuds. Inside at the center, in the key position, is the light principle. The dark principle is outside. Thus, the light has a powerful influence, while the dark is submissive. And in this way, each receives its due. When the good elements of society occupy a central position and are in control, the evil elements come under their influence and change for the better. When the spirit of heaven rules in humanity, their animal nature also comes under this influence and takes its appropriate place. The individual lines enter the hexagram from below and leave it again at the top. Here the small, weak, and evil elements are about to take their departure, while the great, strong, and good elements are moving upward. This brings good fortune and success. The image, heaven and earth unite, the image of peace. Thus the ruler divides and completes the course of heaven and earth. The ruler furthers and regulates the gifts of heaven and earth, and so aids the people. Heaven and earth are in contact and combine their influences, thus producing a time of universal flowering, blooming, and prosperity. This stream of energy must be regulated by the ruler of humanity. It is done by a process of division. Thus, humans divide the uniform flow of time into the seasons, according to the succession of natural phenomena, and mark off infinite space by the points of the compass. For in this way, nature, in its overwhelming abundance, is bounded and controlled. On the other hand, nature must be furthered in her productiveness. This is done by adjusting the products to the right time and the right place, which increases the natural yield. This controlling and furthering activity of humanity in their relationship to nature is the work on nature that rewards humanity. So to recap, the first hexagram, like one side of the coin, depicts a situation that you might currently find yourself in, or are moving through, or are about to enter into. Can be many different ways. But at the very least, it describes an opportunity for you to put yourself into a contemplative view, to look within yourself, to be the high tower on the tall hill or the mountain that not only sees for long distances and sees clearly, but also is an example because this tower can be seen from a far distance as well. So you're not only able to see clearly and contemplate clearly, but you're also being seen as an example as well of this deep and profound contemplation. As you are able to let go of your self-focused egotistical way of viewing others in life and put yourself in others' shoes, put yourself in their place and understand their desires and motivations, you gain wisdom. Your contemplation gains objectivity, rather than looking through a crack of a door and having a very limited outlook and not being able to put yourself into someone else's place and see their motivations. Rather, you expand this crack so that it's wide as the sky, and you can see clearly and take yourself out of your own self-focus to help yourself understand other people's position. And in doing so, you gain this clarity and this deep contemplation that is so beneficial for your interaction with others and for assisting the energy that desires movement in your life to flow freely. And so you do not content yourself with a shallow or thoughtless view of the situation or the prevailing forces at work, but you rather connect these prevailing forces to a divine whole that you are tapping into and understanding, at least trying to understand. As you begin to develop this objectivity, this freedom from thinking about things solely from your own standpoint, a transition occurs. You're no longer looking outward to receive understanding or pictures that are more or less limited and confused, but rather you're directing your attention inward to an inner contemplation upon yourselves to understand a guideline for your decisions. And you're asking yourself, are my effects that I'm producing equaling progress or regression? Your concern is not so much about being focused upon yourself, but rather you're focused or you're concerned about the effects that you're creating in your own life and in the lives of others. Finally, as you begin to contemplate the effects you're having upon others and upon your own life, you're understanding this influence, and you're understanding through this contemplation of your life that you are either bringing a satisfaction that you're free of mistakes, or you're understanding that you are making mistakes because you're not free of producing ill effects upon others. So this is the next step, is to ask yourself, are the effects that I'm producing free of mistakes? And then finally, the final line, which is the sage, the inner light within you, the inner wisdom within you, asking yourself, am I free of blame? So am I free of mistakes? And am I free of blame? And if so, then I can continue onward. And if not, then how can I tweak my behavior such that I can become free of mistakes and free of blame in the effects I'm producing? As you take this further and further, the other side of the coin then becomes peace. So as you're able to do these things and enter into these states of being where the effects that you're producing are good, free of blame and free of mistakes, then you enter into this peace on earth or heaven on earth experience through Thai. And the energy is a flowering, a blooming, because you've progressed to this state. Heaven and earth unite, the image of peace, and you're aiding the people by being in this divinely harmonious flow of energy. You can have self-dignity, you'll have self-respect, and you'll have good fortune and success. For the energy and influences and the effects that you're developing and creating are in harmony, so that all living beings bloom and prosper. The good elements are occupying a central position and are in control, and the evil elements are under the good elements' influence, and the evil elements change for the better. For the spirit of heaven is ruling within you, and your animal nature comes under this spirit of heaven's influence and takes its appropriate place. As you do this, other people follow suit and see your example, just like the tower and contemplation. And your words, your actions, and your thoughts all have a power that emanates a divine energy that others will latch onto, be influenced to, be dominated by, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, just as the wind is influencing the grass that it blows through. So this points to the opportunity to enter into your superior personality, your superior power, your superior person. It points to the power that is possessed by a superior personality. That would be you. Such a person has a view of the real sentiments of humanity. So you have this clarity, this contemplative clarity, and therefore you're not deceived. And on the other hand, you inspire and impress the people so profoundly by your mere existence, because you're not just thinking about yourself. You're thinking about others. You're thinking about their viewpoints, their motivations, and their needs as well. And by doing so, the impact that you have by being in this higher, superior place through your personality, through your character, will sway these other people just as the grass is swayed by the wind. For you're giving expression to profound divine laws in your own person through this deep and profound inner concentration. Looking within, a hidden spiritual power develops and resonates and emanates from within you and influences others without them or even you being aware of how this happens. So this is the situation to which you find yourself in right now, or soon to find yourself in, a looking within and a maturity of looking beyond yourself and your own needs to take into consideration the needs of others and their motivations, and how you can expand that view so that you're not in a naive or egotistical place, but you're able to look outside yourself and contemplate things from a correct standpoint. By doing so, you are integrating the mysterious and divine laws of life through your inner concentration and your ability to expand and go beyond the limited view of the crack in the door. So that's what I have for you. It all leads to peace, which is heaven on earth. I hope this helps. Take care, and thanks for tuning in.